Hello and welcome to this edition of Deb Talks. Today we're going to cover a topic that we get asked a lot, or you know, there's some misinformation out there. People aren't quite sure what to do, but one of the things that seems to come up all the time is funds to close.
All the time, never fails, and
Yeah.
it's a huge
Yeah. So,
piece of the puzzle.
oh, it is
I'm gonna say
right, and kind of what we're going to call this one is proof of funds to close.
yes. Know the importance.
Yes.
Know the importance. Understand the importance of your funds to close.
And you said something even just not too long ago that I just kind of chuckled about, but
Yeah,
do you remember what that
I
was?
do.
Yeah.
Don't hide your money under the mattress. That's a
Yeah.
flat out no.
That's the first thing that can't be accepted
Yeah.
for lending proof of funds. So when we look at what's needed to close on a home loan, in a couple episodes before this, we've talked about the cash to close. So
Mhm.
that's going to consist of whatever down payment you're needing to make on the loan, and it's going to consist of your closing cost and your prepaid items, right?
Right.
So all of those things have to come together for us to have funds to close. That's part of the approval process.
Correct.
And proof of where that money comes from is extremely important.
Mhm. And there's a process, and it's something that needs to be addressed right away with your lender.
Right. And one of the things we always ask for, right, is a bank statement,
Yes.
and we are specifically looking to make sure you have whatever that amount is,
Mhm.
or have the ability to get it, come from several sources. And I guess we could talk about sourcing
Yeah, let's talk about the sources.
also,
Because
because
you mentioned the bank statement, so what things do we look for in that bank statement?
In that bank statement, as it relates to just funds to close, okay,
Yes.
there's other things we're
Yes.
gonna look at,
Mhm.
but as it relates to funds to close, we are literally gonna look to make sure you have that dollar amount in there and how that accumulated in that statement. In other words, has there just been some deposits here and there like normal in your savings or checking account, and that money is in there, right?
Yes. Did it come from your, as you said, your paycheck, your salary, monthly? Did it come from, is it coming from
Now, if there's
another
large
source?
deposit,
Yes.
okay,
A large deposit in cash that,
cash, and Lupe jokingly said mattress money,
Mhm.
but the reality of it is, if we see a large deposit and it's cash, it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Cash is never going to be an acceptable source as funds to close. Whether or not you physically have the cash, or whether you took some mattress money cash and deposited into your bank account. Now, that being said, I'm just going to say it right now, depending on the loan type, we might only need 1 or 2 months bank statements. So if that money was deposited before we got it, then we don't see that, then we don't have to worry about it. But if it's
Right.
a large deposit of cash in the bank statement on the month that we're looking at it, that's going to be an issue.
Yes.
It's not acceptable. There is not a loan program that will accept cash as your funds to close.
And reason being because we need to be able to prove where the funds came from. We're not able to prove or source where that cash came from. That's why it's a flat out no. We cannot accept cash deposit as an acceptable source.
Right. Because we just don't know. I mean, and just to kind of go back a little bit on that is, and we get it. We all do it. We
Right.
all do it.
Yeah.
You sell things, you do, we get it. I understand that. But what specifically looking for was, is there any kind of debt that we don't see that might impair your debt ratio and give you not the ability to make your mortgage payment in the end?
Mhm.
Okay. And we do still have to make sure that it's not laundered money or illegal money or something like that. We have to make sure that that's not there.
We do.
So know this: cash is never acceptable source. Period.
Period.
Okay. But sourcing things can, I mean, you can get that from other places. If it's gifted funds, that's acceptable on all loan types. Gifting funds, depending on your loan type, is how we're gonna document that.
Yes. Yes.
So let's talk about
Let's
gifting.
divulge that, yes, the gifting of funds.
Okay.
This is gonna
Right.
be fun.
Because every loan type is different.
Yeah.
So let's start with an FHA loan.
Mhm.
On an FHA loan, if we are getting gifted funds, and even if mom and dad or uncle or whomever it was that gave you the money, gave it to you before we looked at the application, and that's where it's like, oh gosh, now you have a $10,000 deposit, it wasn't cash.
Mhm.
Instead, my mom and dad gave it to me to buy this house. So if that's done before we even get it, and we see that,
Yeah.
we still have to back source that.
We do.
We have to validate that. So we would
Mhm.
go on an FHA loan, and we would ask for mom and dad's bank statement.
Mhm.
Whoever gave you the money would ask for their bank statement. And we are going to validate that they had the actual funds to give you. Okay.
Correct.
That's on FHA.
And there is a document that must be signed, which is called the gift letter. And that gift letter will actually show the address of the property, their address, the address of the property you're purchasing, the amount of funds that are being gifted, and it must show the way that it was gifted to you, if it was from what bank account it's coming from.
And it's gifted funds. It
And it's
says on
gifted.
there, you are not going to pay
Mhm.
them back.
It
It's
does.
gifted funds.
Yep, it says, that this is a gifted fund and all parties involved in this gift must sign. And it has to have addresses and phone numbers.
And on that FHA loan, there are specific people who can and cannot gift you that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's important that we know that. This is why right at the gate, we always want to find out where your funds to close are coming from so we can help you navigate those waters the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Because on a government loan, mom and dad can gift, a brother and sister can gift, grandparents can gift, but a cousin can't gift.
No.
You don't, I mean, those are things that we are going to be asking for where that gifted source is coming from, because we have to make sure that. Now, if it is a conventional loan,
Yes.
it's easier to give funds. It really is.
Mhm.
Um,
And not to discourage from any
No, 'cause we do it all
program
the
here or
time.
there, but just so that you clearly understand, how am I going to do this? Because I've got some funds coming to me, or my mom or somebody has said, go buy your home and we will help you with funds for your
Absolutely.
down payment or closing.
yes.
This is how we do it.
And this is why we want to know, is so we can help them navigate this the right way.
Right.
Because the last thing we want to do, and unfortunately it has happened from time to time,
Yes.
is tell somebody that's not an acceptable source.
Yeah.
So if we know, this is why you feel like lenders might being really prying into your business, but the reality it is all we're trying to do is make sure it fits the program so that we can use that, and you can use the gifted funds as your source
Yes.
of funds, because it can be used. It just has to be done within the parameter of the loan that you're getting.
Correct. And so going back to the conventional, you stated that it is easier than the FHA because there's less
Documentation. Truthfully,
involved.
yes, it's not as an invasive and that's how I tell people, because if it's a government loan, I know we're being an invasive. I know it. I understand that we are asking for a bank statement that somebody that has nothing to do with the loan, but they really do.
Yes.
And I get it, I understand that, and people really don't want to show that. But
Because
it's
we have to
required.
see their bank statement.
Right,
That's
but on a
where-
conventional loan.
Yeah, on a conventional loan,
It is easy. We don't have to get that as long as they do certain things. And this is where we help direct the right way. If they've already given you that money before you came to us, we're gonna have to get that bank statement still on a conventional loan, okay? Because we have to source it. But if they have not, the easiest way to do is have the gifter, they're gonna sign the letter still.
yes,
They
the
always
letters
have to sign.
is a given.
They always have to sign the letter.
Yeah.
But then they can do a couple things.
Mhm.
If they do not want to provide us the bank statement, which is fine. Again, trust me, we get it.
We get it.
We totally understand that. But if it's a conventional loan, they could wire the funds directly from their account to the title company, and a lot of people do that.
Mhm.
It's very easy, very simple, very clean. Or if, if they're local, it might be easier for them to actually go to their bank and get a cashier's check from that account that they're gonna give the money to and have it made payable to the title company. And then that way,
Mhm.
it's easy too. And then that's literally the gift letter and either the wire to the title or cashier's check to the title is the most non-invasive, easiest way to do it.
Yes.
And VA will follow those same guidelines. So
Mhm.
it depends on your loan type is how we have to source gifted funds.
Correct.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of people, just because when you have somebody that's going to gift you the funds, or we have had this question come up as well. Is that money that I'm being gifted, will that person
That's a great-
have to pay taxes on that money? Or will I have to pay taxes on that money? Because is the IRS going to be notified of this? And the answer is no. Gifted funds is not
The same gifted funds for mortgage lending
correct.
is not the same as gifted funds for tax purposes.
Correct.
That is correct. We do
Mhm.
not report that. The only reason we have to prove it is validation for our borrower's sake, actually, that they don't have an extra loan out there or is not, like I said earlier, wire fraud or money laundering or any kind of illegal activity.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is a really good point.
Yes, and so the statement that they're signing is for our purposes only.
And it just says, I mean,
Mhm.
you don't have to pay back this money.
Yes, and that's why we want the signature from both parties, just with
Right.
that statement.
Yeah.
And for our files.
And
not
so
to-
then the next thing would be, okay, if I don't have that, but I have 401k,
Okay,
is that an acceptable source of funds or, IRAs, retirement accounts of any kind? Is that acceptable sources?
yeah,
That's your money, right?
that's your money, and we can clearly document that it is your money. And along with that, we will need documentation that you've had the funds. We'll need a statement from your 401k or from your IRA or from your CD, stating that you've had the funds in there.
And then if a 401k,
Mhm.
the other thing, I mean, if it's from a CD, like you'd mentioned, that's easy enough to get that finished up. An IRA withdrawal depends on your age, on how we're looking at that.
Mhm.
On a 401k, I mean, like if you've got your retirement fund from your employer,
Mhm.
is just the statement good enough? I
No.
mean, and that's what,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so yes, and here's where again, people may think, oh my gosh, more documentation. And
and
yes,
it is.
we agree.
It is.
We agree. We agree.
No hiding the fact.
No, and we are sorry, right?
Right?
We use that word a lot. We're sorry.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll need to have the 401k statement. A lot of times your entity that handles your retirement funds could request a document from us, which is like a settlement statement or
Correct.
or something
To
along
show
the lines to show that you are in the process of purchasing a home and that you will use these funds for the purposes of your
Right,
purchase.
and that depends on whoever holds your retirement
Mhm.
funds.
Yes, they're the
the-
ones that will notify us what you will need as proof,
Right,
and then we know what we need.
and we
which
work
is-
with them all the time, so
Yes, we do.
don't panic on that. We
Mhm.
walk you through that. But also, if you are withdrawing from that kind of an asset, we do need proof from them that it is okay to withdraw those funds for a home.
Mhm.
Because believe it or not, there are still some companies that will not allow you to take any kind of withdrawal from your retirement funds.
Correct.
And if you can't, then we can't use that as source of funds to close,
Mhm.
obviously.
Yeah.
So when we're first interviewing and getting a loan application,
Mhm.
that's one of the things we always talk about is like, okay, if you have this, do you have the ability to take a loan against it or a withdrawal? Loan would always be better than a total withdrawal just for tax purposes, but we do ask that question, and if you don't know that, then just go to your employer or whoever is servicing that, and you can ask that real quick. Because there are every now and then some companies that won't let you touch that.
That's correct.
Percy accounts, you can't.
Yeah.
If you work for you just can't. We already know that.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, if you have that kind of asset where that's proof of funds to close, it's just how then what we need further, depending on what that asset is, like a CD or that is easy enough. Yes, you'll have a little prepayment penalty if you withdraw a CD early.
Mhm.
But truth of the matter is, and this is one thing, it's not for me to make that choice, but
Yeah.
what I will encourage my clients to do is go find out what that penalty is, because most of the times on a CD, it's a very minimal prepayment penalty, or payment penalty, excuse me, I can't even think today, penalty in order to withdraw.
It must be
those funds.
because of the eclipse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Might be.
Happy Eclipse Day,
We
right?
might, yes,
Yeah.
that
I think
is true.
things are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's say somebody doesn't have the ability to get gifted funds and doesn't have the ability to pull from a 401k. Um, what kind of other things are out there that they might be able to do?
Okay, so let's say you have a vehicle that you outright own, you have the title. You can sell a vehicle.
So you mentioned a title though. What if they have other assets?
Okay,
Because if so, I pushed this one out at you. Sorry,
Mhm.
but it has to be, if you're going to sell an asset, we have to have a tangible liquid asset that we can clearly define the value of,
Yes.
and we have to prove that you own it.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, furniture wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work.
No.
But a vehicle
Mhm.
that you have a title to,
Mhm.
selling that.
Or
Could work.
mobile home.
Well, yeah, something
home.
that, both, something that has a tangible, and that we can go online, because we are going to document the value of that asset.
Yes, we have to.
Literally, if we can only determine that asset truly is worth a couple $1,000s, but you're gonna sell it for 20, why?
Yeah.
Is that really legitimate? So we're gonna validate anything we do validation on.
Mhm.
If you haven't figured that out yet, we're gonna validate that that asset is there to sell. One thing that we do a lot in the state of Idaho is stock. People are like
Mhm.
stock, and I'm not
Yeah, I
talking
was just-
stock and bonds, I'm
Yeah.
talking livestock.
Four-legged animal stock.
Right.
Right.
So how do we validate that was yours and what the current value is? And that is I tell people, in order to do that, you're gonna have to sell it through the sale yard. Because that's gonna validate everything we're gonna need.
Mhm.
If I sold it to, my neighbor down the street, that's not gonna give me proof that you owned it. And it's not gonna give me proof of what the current value is of that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is, because we've gotta validate that that was yours.
Mhm.
And
What about, I know that a lot of people have been doing this online Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Yep. How about that, Debbie?
Oh, that's a really good point.
Uh-huh.
Yes. As long as you can validate it's yours, which you should be able to,
Mhm.
depending on I don't know one Bitcoin or trading like that literally doesn't physically give you statements, right?
Right.
And then we would have to validate what that value is at the time that you're taking that money out, because it is your money.
Mhm.
It is. But there are further steps if it's something like that.
Mhm.
But again, we have to validate that.
Yes.
And it can be done. We've done several that people have
Mhm.
taken their money out of their Bitcoin accounts
Mhm.
in order
And
to put a down
to
payment.
put a down payment.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that is
Yeah.
sourceable.
If it's an inheritance, now I'm just kind
Mm-hmm.
of jumping up there. If it's an inheritance, we
Mhm.
have to document it was your inheritance.
Yes.
We're gonna get very intrusive again in that point. We
Mhm.
are. But we have to document that that was actually legally your inheritance to go ahead and have that money.
Yes.
So there's all kinds of different avenues for sources of funds to close on a home loan.
Yeah.
It's just important more than anything. I mean, hopefully you can understand. We don't like to ask for a bunch of different documentation, trust me. And I know we get it seems like we're getting very, very personal on some
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
But-
It can get depending again,
Right.
but we always go back to talk to your lender. Talk to your lender, figure it out. Don't assume. And but if you give us a call, we're available.
We'll walk
We'll walk
through
you through it.
anyway, but that's why we're asking. It's like, okay, where is it really coming from?
Yeah.
And we need to know so we can help you through the whole thing. But
Mhm.
documenting the source of the funds to close, your proof of your funds, as you said,
Yeah.
is important on every single loan type.
Mm-hmm.
And how we have to is going to be different on every single loan type also. So if you're talking to your friend and your friend's like, oh, well, I did this and my lender didn't ask for it, it's probably because they did a different loan type, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But that's the reason, that would be the reasons that we'd have to go deeper. It's going to be
I
depending
agree.
on your loan type.
Everything is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as Lupe said,
Mm-hmm.
if you have any questions at all, if reach out to us. We're here to walk you through it always
Always. Mm-hmm.
and help you understand the whys behind what we ask for.
Yeah.
So hopefully that gives a little bit of clarification
Yeah.
on funds to close.
Yeah. And with that being said, I think you guys have time to go catch the eclipse. So have a great day.
Yes.